Welcome to the Coaching Table. I'm Thomas Thompson, leadership coach with Lead Self, Lead Others. And the Coaching Table is a weekly experience I've created to help leaders like you have the conversations that you're not having so that you can lead yourself well, that you can live well, and you can finish well. And you may notice that this week's the Coaching Table looks a little different. I'm not actually sitting at a table, and I'm actually kind of in a sweats. It's a sweats day for me. And that's because I want to talk today just for a few minutes about the idea of paying attention to yourself. A month ago, my mother passed away, and this past weekend we were in Dallas burying her and going through her stuff and kind of all that comes with that part of life and that part of death. And I'm beginning today kind of the reassembly of my life. And what I was hit with over the last month was kind of an unexpected diminished capacity. It was unusual for me because usually the way that I would deal with grief or pain or loss is just to work harder and achieve more. But this last month was really odd. And I started to try to pay attention to myself. And one of the things that I did was I began to slow down some things. So I stepped away from some responsibilities. I stopped doing some of the coaching table videos. I just tried to change my life a little bit to begin to pay attention to what was happening with me. And it took me to 1 Kings 19. If you remember the story, in 1 Kings 18, Elijah has just achieved an incredible victory over these evil prophets that were trying to disrupt what God was doing. And you think this guy would be on top of the world. You think he'd be successful and full of faith. But actually in 1 Kings 19, he finds out that there's like a bounty placed on his head and he is targeted for attack. And the guy is experiencing an unexpected diminished capacity. And he begins to run and run and run. And finally, he can't run anymore. And all the things he's relied upon to normally do in his life to deal with pain and loss and grief and fear aren't working for him. So he finally collapses, exhausted, and he begins to sleep. And when he wakes up, he discovers that God has been so graceful to him by delivering him some food, something to drink, and then tells him just to rest and sleep. Elijah experiences this grace of God. It's an unusual thing because you might think a prophet like Elijah would expect to hear from God, hey, get back up and go back to work. Get back up and do more. But Elijah rests. And after 40 days, he experiences this moment where he gets to hear the voice of God in a very powerful and new and tangible way. And so what I wanted to share with you today is that if you reread that chapter, that is an example of a God who is gracious towards his servants. A God who says, I care more about my people than they could ever imagine. We think that God is a God who is just expecting us to do more and achieve more. But this is a God who says, I can get things done with or without you. What I care about is your heart and your life and your mission. So I want to encourage you to reread 1 Kings 18 and 19 this week. And I want to give you this coaching table question. God is gracious towards you. How are you giving grace to yourself? For me today, it looks like doing the coaching table while I'm walking along a trail in my sweats. What does it look like for you to give grace to yourself? I'd love to interact with you on that. If you want to scroll up and shoot me a quick video back, or if you want to scroll down and tap on my email and send me a little email, I'd love to have that conversation with you about how you're giving grace to yourself. Think about that this week, and I'll see you next week with The Coaching Table. And until then, you're always welcome at the table.